All right. So what are we doing today here? We've got all the stuff recorded for Unit 5, so we're just kind of hanging out. I'm co-working a little bit on another screen, so I figured I'd just kind of share this other screen with you guys, and we can talk about what we're planning in the lab and what we're working on, and I might just keep drawing on my notes a little bit as well as we're going, because I have some plans for how we're going to update the ProLUG course, and I think that that will be a valuable kind of retooling. You know, we're going back to the lab type setup, and we'll do that. We're kind of monitoring on the left right here the environment and making sure everything's kind of cool and staying within tolerances. And then on the right, we are. I don't know why this isn't spinning. On the right, we're working on looking at the courses that are available for people and just kind of the normal stuff we do when I'm co-working. So if anybody's got any questions about the group or any of the stuff that we do around here, let me know. Otherwise, I'm kind of chilling and checking on stuff in my other window here. Probably checking on Ranger here in a minute. Our camera's about to switch over there on Ranger Dog. He actually really scared me last night. I walked downstairs and he was laying in his bed. He was laying in the left bed there, and he was looking directly towards the hallway. And I looked at him and he didn't move. He had his eyes open. He didn't move. And I was like, Ranger, and he didn't move. And then I was like, Ranger, are you okay? And he like still didn't move with his eyes open, just looking at me. And I'm like, are you dead, Ranger? And then he like perked his ears up a little bit, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man. He legitimately was just staring at me with like 1,000 yards. He was looking right through me, and I was legitimately scared because I mean he's old and he's making a lot of noise when he walks around and stuff, and I was really worried that that it was all over for Ranger Dog. But no, he's still kicking. I gave him a treat and he perked up a lot. So I think he's just an old dog, but we love Ranger. He's a good dog. He's been on stream ever since I started, man. I've had Ranger Dog on stream, and we have pictures of him for Christmas. We have pictures of him like where he had his little Christmas tree and stuff. So he's the guy when we get follows on Twitch. Like he's the little dog that pops up and says, "Oh, they're doing Linux out back." You know, like he's super unimpressed with what we're doing around here. So he's a good dog though. We like Ranger. The wife always says that he's the last. The wife always says he's the last dog we're gonna have. But I'll trick her into getting another one or two when he goes. So she also wants a cat or two, and I'm like, we'll get cats, but we'll also get some dogs too. So it'll be good balance of animals. Ivana, how's it going over on the Twitch side? We're just hanging out a little bit. I do little co-working sessions during the day now to try to just find more people that are interested in doing Linux with us, right? Like we hang out down in Discord and we talk shop and don't charge anybody anything for that stuff. You guys can just hang out down there if you want. And this is the one. This is what we're doing next. Whoops. This is what we're doing next right here. We're going to be setting up these components. This is Unit 6 coming up. So that'll be our next little part. I've got, like, the 10-week course isn't enough to do all the security that somebody would need, but hopefully hopefully I get enough in there for you guys to have a primer and to be able to say, like, hey, I have enough to start doing security. That's kind of my goal in that one, because it's short. It's only 10 weeks. Maybe we'll expand it out in the future. Maybe we'll, because I was even thinking like a few more parts to it. I'm definitely going to do like a bonus lecture on that security course where it won't be one of the weeks, but maybe it'll be at the end. And it's going to be there's something I haven't done yet in the security course that I really need to, which is tie this all back to engineering. Obviously, we're doing all these things and we're securing these systems, and hopefully people are finding some good, valuable like pieces of technology. But I haven't really tied it into like how is that engineering? Like what is this concept of modularity and how does it play into this? And what is this concept of uh, well, all kinds of different engineering concepts that we might run into. So that's what we're doing, and that's kind of where we're going with that. All right. So, anyways, Ivana, does the security course have a project too? It does. It does actually. In fact, I got to really start focusing on that because I showed it to the people in the first couple weeks, and we really haven't been hammering it again yet. So yeah, the course project looks like let's see if they have it on here yet. I don't know if the guys put it on here yet. But the course project is this. You got to go, we picked up a new client. They're requesting we help them adhere to like the HIPAA compliance standard. And here's a really good write up of how the HIPAA compliance works right here. And we need to help to build the documentation for them around these things, right? These are the exact things that come from that is how are we implementing risk analysis and management? That's something that you're probably going to have to study a little more on your own. We don't go heavily into the course, but we do a lot with the administrative, physical, and technical safeguards. We can actually report those out from our systems and our technology. And then maybe we need to write a little bit about this. So I'm going to actually be writing one of these up as well so that we have it for the group. And then another one is what are our documentation practices, what are our policies and our procedures around locking this stuff down. We do have the option for people, because not everybody in our group is in the US, we got people all over the world. So I did give an EU option for GDPR because that's a big one too. And a lot of companies or a lot of countries have reciprocal agreements with the EU on GDPR. Now we don't, the US does not, but we do have similar type laws, but I chose for us to do HIPAA because some customers will have, I actually have customers that have HIPAA requirements. And I was putting together a compliance doc for one of our customers, and I was like, well, maybe the guys would want to see how to do this as well, because it is part of a deliverable for a company. And then, maybe we use some overleaf and set up a slide deck to explain what we did, and then we have some type of presentation, right? So that's always an option in our course. I think that's always something that would be valuable for people to know how to do. And again, I mean, when we talk about regulations or we talk about what we have to adhere to, we don't all have the same requirements. But a big part of being a security engineer is being able to go figure out those requirements, distill them down into individual check boxes, and then be able to work through them. Let's close that down. It's a little bright. So, yeah, so that's what we're doing. We're listening to music. We're hanging out. Not working too hard. I don't have any idle games to play. I beat that one game, so there's no real reason to start it up anymore. It's just a little idle time waster. I'm doing other stuff, so I can't focus on Brotato right now. So, yeah, we'll just hang out and watch the screens kind of roll through. We do have to update some of our monitors. I've let our monitors kind of get old in our environment, so I do need to update some of those a little bit and modernize that a little bit. So we'll work on that. Get better data sources and such. But yeah. So that's what we're doing. Just kind of hanging out, co-working a little bit. If anybody wants to know about the courses and stuff, we do have all that information down in the Discord. Discord's always free. What, did I spell Discord wrong? No, there it is. Nightbot was sleeping. I'll start thinking about the project for the admin course myself. Yeah, and Vivana, a lot of people have done in the admin course, the people that finished it, the project that they ended up doing. Most people, I mean, people did different projects, but we had some good ones, man. The final project, different people did different things, but you have to do something around Linux, right? Linux stability or performance or security or monitoring or Kubernetes or programming automation, and then find something similar. So, just go in there and it's not that you have to implement some open source, fixes or anything or write things and push it up to GitHub, but you have to just deploy something. So if you find that for system security, there is not a good, maybe you find out, oh, hey, we're doing this admin course and I want to implement a way to automate my STIG scanning or something. So then maybe you go and you use cron and you use Ansible and you use maybe like the SCC tool and you push that out to a set of nodes, or even, just to test, you do it on one node, who cares? And you get it to run a report every Friday or something. And every Friday it updates you with what your security baseline is in your company based on the STIG scores. That's a perfectly valid thing to do. You may do something along the lines of, this would be a little more challenging, but like maybe you go pull all the CVEs for the last week out of the CVE database, and then you go and say, well, these vulnerabilities map to the, I mean, because you can at any time in a Linux box, right? Like literally at any time in a Linux box, you can go like this. You can see every package on there. So if I could pull every vulnerability for the last week, and I can pull every, and vulnerabilities are always tied to versions, and I could pull every version, it's not that much work, maybe a little more than I'm going to do because I'm lazy, but to take maybe those security scans and compare them and say, oh, I have this NetTools 2.0 that's affected by a new level 7 CVE. We need to investigate this. That would be a perfectly acceptable little project. You could do a Kubernetes deployment, and you could just do, hey, I just want to write a 3-tier app. Scott has that lab on 3-tier applications, and shows me how to build a 3-tier app, and I just want to do that, right? And that could be your project. Your project doesn't have to be some huge thing, but it does have to be something that's documented, deployed, and then you're going to build out a drawing of it, a drawing and how you did it. So the presentation doesn't, you don't have to actually present if you don't want, but you can, right? You guys, because a lot of people, like, this is the only place you get to sit around and practice your public speaking, maybe, right? In our group. And we have different stuff for that for you guys. But anyways, my point is, I think you guys can handle a lot of that. Quartz said, I finally wrapped my head around the inodes and I was playing with hard links and symbolic links. Nice, Quartz. Yeah. Yeah, Quartz, it's one of those things, you just got to play with them a little bit, and then after you do it enough, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get that. And then it'll all work, hopefully. Castampin said, I have a quick question. Wrapping my, I was working on Unit 4 Lab sysadmin course and was unable to do the cron section. Oh, Leatherbeska, how's it going? Castampin, yeah, you can install, so let's say you went to do cron tab -L and it wasn't there. You can just do, so you would do this. This is how you would do it. You would say, DNF what provides, I thought I had put it on these, but I apologize if I didn't. Let's just say which provides cron tab. It should show us. And it should be cronny. Yep. So you would just do on the lab environment, Castampin, you would just say DNF install cron tab. Cronny. CRONIE. So that would be it. Just add that command. Yeah, and that's some of those things. There's a little bit of proclivities. I thought I had added that into this, but apparently I didn't. And then just hit yes, and then there you go. Boom. So that should fix it for you, Castampin. And Leatherbiska, thanks for the subscription. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you guys. Yeah, Castampin, it probably didn't make it in. I either didn't write it or it just didn't make it in the lab. But no, these are your boxes. So when you guys are in a box here, when you come into one of our lab servers, you could literally do any of the stuff that you need. So I apologize if I didn't make that clear. That's your server. You can do whatever you want to it. The worst thing you can do is break it and shut it down and I'll rebuild it, right? Or if you reboot it, it'll rebuild too, right? Yeah, you're probably right though. I don't think, yeah. We look for cron, system status cron. Yep. It's not there. So I can go do, I have the ability to open issues here, and I could like just open an issue and say, hey, will you guys make sure that we let them know to do a DNF install cronny if you need. Yeah, and when I first wrote the lab, I wrote it in a more full system than these. These are like container images, but if you want, I'll show you how I'd fix that. So if I fix that so it would never happen again, watch this. So wwctl node list -a grep-I for container. My Rocky boxes are all still this. So now I'm going to go do this. So wwctl container exec Rocky Linux bin bash, and then in here we do an rpm-qa grep for cronny. Not there? Yep, it's not there. So we're going to do DNF install cronny. Down, so we're putting it down in the container image, right? and that's going to, as we leave this container, it's going to build that new container for the cluster. So Rocky 9 Lab 10 Feb 25 will be updated. It'll still be the same name because those name this is for me, right? So let's see it install real quick, the cronny. And when I go to leave this ch root that's actually running, it's like it's a werewolf version of like a ch root in that environment. I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. We're gonna install it. It's going to build that into the cluster. So here it is. It's going to build that cluster. Boom. And then when this is done, we're going to, yeah, so Stampin', this actually will never come up again because now that'll just always be built in there. But this is how you would have done it. This is how I'm going to fix it for all containers going forward, though. So it's going to come up like that. It's going to take a little while. It takes a little while. My environment's not, I don't have super high speed, newer. Most of my hardware's, over 5 years old, so it's a little bit older. We are going to be refreshing the hardware in the environment one of these days. We're just taking our time. It still works, so we'll get around to it one of these days. Move everything down onto another system, but all right. Let that finish. We're going to overlay build to all the nodes because they have to rebuild with the updated version of that container. So the new VNFS container image for the system is here, which is where all the nodes are going to pull. So let's wait a second here. This is kind of the jam, this little song here. The little drums in the background. All right, anyway, so WWCTL overlay build, and if I just do it like this, it'll build for the whole cluster. So we'll just let it build all the nodes in the cluster. And then I'm going to take that Rocky 19 box I was on and I'm going to reboot it. Because when we reboot it, we'll be able to watch it come up. And just for fun, we can watch it reboot over here. Where was I? I was on Rocky 19. Okay. We're going to let it finish. It's got to build all the it's going to build everything. We told it to build everything, so that's fine. We could have limited it down to just the one node, but I'm okay with doing all of them as well. So let's go doom doom doom. That's funny. It had my little vocalizations and then it took them away. Like it's like, oh, no, he didn't mean to say that. I don't care. SH to Rocky 19. Uptime. Oops. My nobody else on here. Reboot. So now we're going to ping him till he comes up. But on the right, we're going to watch him boot. Actually, you know what? Let's not ping him. Let's tail-f on var log werewolf D. And then we'll look for grep Rocky 19. So we're just going to watch for Rocky 19 to check into the werewolf server. Pull his initramfs and his image. And then pull down, the first thing that the werewolf client will do when it starts is it'll pull down his system overlays. And we'll see him on the right. He's going to iPixie boot. He's going to find out that he's Rocky 19. He doesn't know who he is yet because he doesn't have a hard drive. But right there, he's going to find out that he's Rocky 19. He's going to start to pull his information here, his kernel and his initramfs, and we'll see him pulling over here in the Rocky logs. So that's good. Initram will be next. And then we'll make sure that he boots up clean. And then, yeah, Stampin', you'll never see that again. You'll never see that again if you go into a new node, like one that's been rebooted. We could check right now if nobody's in them and we could reboot them all. But the point is, we're going to test this. This is a one box test. Make sure that our container image is good, and then we'll go forward. So, check for Rocky 19 here. Whew. Oh, I'm so tired today. I mean, I got up and went and did, I wrestled in the morning. I wrestled at 5 a.m. with a group. And we probably had 25 people in there this morning, so it was pretty good sized group if I had to guess. It's like the vets and first responders group. Now, anybody could come to it, but The vets and first responders are normally the ones that come to it, so it's mostly me wrestling with like old army guys, and then also a bunch of cops and firefighters and stuff. So it's like everybody in there tends to be pretty fit. So it's a nice morning. I'm pretty sore right now, but that's a good start to your day. Trying to kill your best buds, and then go on with your day. Of course, I tell people like you can't be worried about anything else when your friend's trying to kill you. So that's one of the reasons that people like jujitsu so much, is it's like better than therapy. And like we jokingly say, we choke people so we don't choke people. Oh, that's just jujitsu humor. It's actually all technically strangles. You're only choking somebody if you put something down their throat. Otherwise, if it's outside their neck, it's a strangle, right? And it's kind of funny because I don't care that much. We call them chokes all the time, but you're not actually choking anybody in jiu-jitsu. It's all strangles. So it's a funny thing. I sometimes tell the guys that, and then we just all laughed off or whatever. But all right, this system's going to come up as soon as this SE Linux labeling is done. This box will be able to SSH back in. We can ping it, and it's going to actually probably start here. Yeah, it should be in the next few seconds. It'll start responding to ping. Yep, there he is. And right when he gets there, or right before there, we should be able to SSH in. And most importantly, cron tab-L should just be there. There's no cron tab for root, but maybe I do a cron tab-E, and then every few seconds or every 1 minute, maybe oops. Let's do this real quick. Let's say I gotta find something real quick. Which echo and which wall? Oh, so it's user bin echo and user bin wall. And then if we grep -I path from etc cron tab, we'll see that the path has user. Okay, so echo and wall will work in there. Cron tab-E, and we say, and then right here we just do like echo I am the best wall, right? And that could be our command. We can do it like this too, but we'll go ahead and leave that off because I don't think we'll need any of that. And then so that'll install the new cron tab. I've shown you guys before. You can do cron tab-L as root. Jeez, cron tab-L to see that. But then if you ever need to, var spool cron is where anybody else's cron tabs would get established. So if other users were making their cron tabs, it would be there. Now that message is going to keep happening every 1 minute forever now, as long as the system's up and as long as cron tab's running. So if we just sit here and and hang out and talk for a minute, that message will still keep popping up. And you'll notice it didn't happen at exactly the minute, because cron is an interesting little bear. Cron is a process that starts between the 1st and the 5th second of every minute. And it will then look around to see if there's anything to do, and then it'll do it, and if not, it'll go back to sleep for a minute. So cron is not what we consider, like, cron is a great tool in sysadmin world, but if we're talking about being like engineering timing, and we need like really precise timing, you would not use a tool like cron for it. If you're just like, sometime in the night, sometime around 4:30 in the morning, just do some backups, cron's perfect for that. But if you need like the precision of exactly every 1 minute this thing goes off, it's not going to work. Cron starts between the 1st and the 5th second of each minute, so it's not as precise as maybe other tools. So we can do cron tab-E, whoops, and then I can come in here and I can just comment this out for now. So now my cron tab's there. It's not going to be affecting me anymore. If I ls in here, there's my roots cron tab, or cron tab-L if you're the user, and you can see the actual cron tab of the system. So hopefully that's clear as mud. But that's that won't ever come up again on those systems. So what would you use for a more precise? You'd have to probably write something yourself, Ivana. Like if you were going to wrap like a daemon that was going to do something at exactly every 1 second, or exactly every 500 milliseconds rather, you would have to write that yourself. You'd use some kind of system timing process, or use some kind of C typically. Yeah, you can. I mean, and engineers do all kinds of things. That kind of starts to go outside of what I do typically as an engineer. Like I keep the system platform stable, and stable and secure is kind of my thing. But yeah, that's where we would go from there. So yeah, so this is the lab book, guys. You know, the lab book's free. All the stuff on the lab is free, and you guys can get in there and do all the Linux. Right, that's the goal. Let's exit out real quick and let's go look at. Let's do a quick Ansible Rocky -m shell -a. So we're going to do an ad hoc command, and we're going to look for uptime to see if how many users we have on there. So we'll see the uptime of the systems, but we'll also see if any users are on there. So one user. That's just my user on there. Looks like Rocky 10 has somebody on there, or has had somebody on there. Let's go check real quick. We see another root user in since Tuesday. Let's see, what was the lab this week? Yeah, it doesn't look like anything's changed in here. Okay, I think we're safe to reboot everything. We're not gonna kick anybody's session off right now, because I think that it should be safe. So we're gonna reboot all the systems real quick, and they're all gonna come up now with cron on them. So some of them you'll find in an unreachable state because they went down before they responded, and the other ones got the response off. It's kind of an interesting little race issue that, or what we call a race condition, that happens inside of the system. Some of them got to respond and some of them died before they got to respond, but they all did the same thing. They've all rebooted. So then I can come over here and we can check the uptime on the systems that are up, and we'll go ahead and add an -F20, so it'll hit them all at the same time. And then because we know that it tends to take about 180 seconds, we'll give them 240 seconds before we get them to come back up. So how's Ranger doing? Oh, look at that Ranger! Look at that Ranger dog down there. That dog, he is living his best life. Oh, so now they're all gonna restart. We could watch one. We could come over here, and we could just keep an eye on this one. And they should all. Now they take a little longer than 3 minutes when we're hitting them all, so maybe I'll give them 5 minutes here, 5 minutes on top of the time I've already given them while we were talking. But we should see any number of them going through. You know, they should all be going through their reboot process here. They're taking their time, that's for sure. It's because I did it to all the nodes at once, right? All the nodes on one server. And if I go look at this server, watch his performance right now. His performance has shot up. Actually, yeah, because he's using way more of his CPU right now than normal. His memory performance, all the nodes went down. Now the memory performance is coming up because they're all booting again. This is the actual host box here. And he's been doing a whole bunch of stuff since 8:30 this morning, which is when we when we kicked them all over. So this is all the nodes starting as opposed to just chilling, right? Yeah, let's go watch one. Come on, servers. Oh, well, it'll take a little time. Is there a term for when you're trying to turn many VMs at the same time at the same instant and it fails? Oh, like, are you saying if there's a term for like when you're trying to turn them off and it fails? I don't know. I don't know of like a direct term. Maybe just colloquially we might call it a mass failure. But I don't think there's like any one term for it. No, not that I know of. All right, let's give them a little bit of time as I'm beating all these poor boxes up. All right, so here comes Rocky 1. Rocky 1's going to come up. He's going to figure out who he is on the network. Cool. And he should get I am Rocky 1. Yep. So he's booting and coming up off the kernel, off the system correctly. How's about this guy? 2. 2 knows that he's 2. All right, so all the nodes are going to come up. We know that kind of. But then over here, we just have to... we probably gave them right about enough time for this sleep, which is 5 minutes on top of the minute or 2 we had already given them to allow these to boot up. So let's just sit here and let them go, and we'll let this spin over here on the right as well. So those are just things on the right that are kind of interesting to what we normally do around here. Then we've got the Linux sysadmin course and the Linux security engineering course. Those are both books that are free online. They're also available down the Discord. You know, I tell you guys all the time, you can come right here and you could just you can print this whole book out right here. Just print it to PDF and have it. You don't have to look at it online if you don't want. But that's a completely free tool for you guys that quite frankly, I didn't even put these together. The group, our Linux engineers went and put all this stuff together. Treasure knew how to do it through like I think it's like a make book or a make markdown or something. I don't know exactly what the tool is, I forget, but he can take they put this all up in GitHub, and then it can build it all directly, so they can just build those books anytime they want, which is kind of cool. But yeah, let's watch our devices come up and make sure that they're doing the same thing, the things that they need to here on the left side. Yep, and then we gotta look at these are our lab environment things that I like to know about the environment. Yep, looks like Rocky 2 is coming up pretty healthy. He just needs to finish up the last little bit of his booting, and then we can go. Yep. So all what I did just right there fixed all 19 of the Rocky boxes for cron tab. So people will no longer see that cronny error and cron tab not being there. Now that part of the lab will just work. So, yep. And there could be some discussions around there. We have been discussing that kind of stuff in the security group around, well, we don't just make one-off changes like that. I just made a bunch of changes in my environment while we were in prod without any testing, which is not bad. I mean, it's not bad in the home lab. It is very bad in the engineering world. We don't do that kind of stuff in the engineering world typically. We test things out and validate them well before we go forward, like I just did. But with home lab gives us a little leeway, and we get to do whatever. Fivana said changing where the weekly discussion posts are is really neat. Yeah, I think that ends up working better for people. So if you guys have ever been in Discord, right, here's a Discord. Down here, we are going to have these little forums now, and then the forums you can actually search for like security, and it would find you just the security stuff, and that's going to make it easier, I think, for people when they're like, Unit 5. Well, they're all Unit 5 right now, but when we get all of the discussion posts in here, I think it'll be easier for people, because what happened down in the projects page is the threads that I used to make for all the discussions, they go away after people haven't typed in them for so long. If you guys have never seen that in Discord, it kind of has its own pruning, and I'm pretty sure the discussion stuff will be the same way as a forum, but you guys can go in there and post your stuff in there. So yeah, and it makes it harder to find. Like, I think there's one in here called I have one for, maybe I don't. Let's just hit escape there. I thought I had one that I'd put in here. Yeah, so ProLUG QA questions. So if you have QA type, questions and answers, and if you have any problems with the course and you want to drop it in here, you guys can always do that as well. So that's a nice little environment thing. Also, I'd like to show you guys that there's always these events, and we have quite a lot of events coming up. Looks like there's a Linux admin course study group today, so people should go in there if they want to hang out. How's it going, Colkiss? Yep, we're just kind of hanging out. We're not working too hard. There's a security engineering study group on Fridays now. There's a bash study group on Saturdays now. That one's big. Look, 42. Linux sysadmin course and Linux security engineering course. Those are the free courses. They show up on Saturdays on the weekend. And then Writer's Room is also on Sunday on the weekend. And then we've got an academic thing starting on Sunday nights. That's going to be for people that want to see what research looks like and what it's like to be involved in that process and what it's like to go read research papers and kind of what I do anyways with them. And I'm going to show you guys that because I'm starting up my PhD again. So that's going to be there. And then we have all the fun stuff. This is all the fun stuff coming in August. These are all free conferences. We typically have like hundreds of people come to these. So feel free to let people know that you're coming and then it'll at least alert you. There's just a bunch of guest speakers all day. It's not all me the whole time. It's all guest speakers. All right, look at these. A bunch of these had not come up yet. So we're going to... They should almost be ready. Let's give it the old college try here. Yep, look at them. They're all back up. And just for fun, I could do cron tab -L and see that cron is on all of them now. Because that's what we rebooted them. What? Oh, well, we're fine with there being no cron tab for root. That's a fine failure. But cron's there. Oh, we could do this instead. This would be a better, I guess, for that check. Which cron tab? Is cron tab there? Yeah, it's there. So at least that gives us a non-red, because see, the return code of 1, which is there's a failure in cron tab -L because there's no cron for root, but the command cron tab is there, and return code 1 should be rendered as red as a failure. But we said, well, okay. Is cron tab on the machine? That's a return code of 0, so that's interpreted in green. So like this is still positive to us, but this would look negative to like a manager or like if you drop this on like a slide for a project, they'd be like, you obviously don't have cron tab there, and you're like you're sitting there. It's that Ben Affleck smoking outside, going, I can't fucking deal with these people. Like they don't know that this is still positive because we still fixed the problem. They want it in pretty green color, right? So just I often tell you guys about this, like how an engineer presents information can make good information look bad or bad information look good, and that's a good example of it right there. Both of those are positive of that the change we made was good, but one of them looks like shit and looks like we bled all over the screen, and the other one makes it look like this is a happy, good, successful thing because it's green. And it's funny because the managers that care don't even know what either of them are. They just see the colors and they're like, well, obviously one of these is better than the other. I know nothing else about it, but green is better than red. So it's almost like you protect users from themselves. You just, okay, here's the spoon. The airplane comes in for the, and you're like trying to feed a little baby from a spoon. That's what we're spoon feeding our users and our. When I say users, I mean anybody that's not like a Linux power user in our environment, a root user. Like we basically have to spoon feed them everything. And it's sad, but it's also kind of funny and true. And because I finally recorded the Unix course last night, the security engineering course last night for all of the security patching and repos, it's funny, now I get to turn around and have to be ready for the next one again already. So I've got to get this one out now. I'm going to try to get these done. I have most of this already written, so I'm going to try to get it out by Friday for you guys so that it's not as much work for the guys that want to push it out to the book. But I have all these components. I just have to think about how I want to present the topic. So yeah, cool. Cause yeah. So we just paint. Yeah, we basically paint everything green before we send it out the door. Yep. If I never showed you guys this is a funny little project I did years ago. Me and my boss, we were working on this tooling. Let me see. I think I just have this in Linux Group. This isn't even in ProLUG projects. This was a mezzanine thing that I built out for a company called Keras. And me and my boss, we bought this Storinator device, and they said, we'll paint it any color you want. And we said, that's fine, paint it green. So we made them paint it like this. This is like one of the most disturbing colors we can find. I think there's actually a name for this green, and it is not great, right? It's very similar to the green from the terminal, right? Which is, by the way, this green is just 00FF00, right? It's just green. This is yeah, this was our storinator. This is how we had it pop out, um, and this was a fun project. We used Gluster on this one, so that was a fun little project. Me and my boss built that up at a company called Karis long ago. Just mezzanine, just slow storage. Had 88 terabytes located in two places. Weird baby green, fluid green. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we wanted it to pop in the data center. You were gonna know when you walked by that server. Yeah, and we dropped the highest density spinning disks that we could in it at the time were 8 terabyte disks. Last I checked, and I'm probably way off now, but last I checked with those same 8 terabyte or those same like SATA disks, you could get like the Western Digital like red or green ones. You could get those in like 22. Did I say gigs? Yeah, terabytes, 22 terabytes on those spinning disks. And then we had them rated up, and it was we used MD we used MDADM as our RAID software RAID, to pull those up, and then we sliced them up, and then we shared them as a Gluster, and then we linked the Gluster between the two systems, so that it's Gluster, Gluster, and that tool that's a really awesome tool for like slow stuff. It's not. I don't think it's great for. Um, I don't think it's great for like high speed syncing, but I think it's great for like mezzanine slow storage syncing. And what we were doing with that storage was we were putting data up there that was being pulled out of like lab instruments, and then we were syncing it between Phoenix and Texas. So we were syncing it between the two locations, and we were doing it kind of at network speed, and everything pretty much stayed. And also we were putting the security team was like taking disk drives of older systems or people that would leave the company, and we would take snapshots and put it. I'd let security do that, but I'm saying they would put snapshots of the hard drives up there, and we would just store it in there. And we had like 88 terabytes in both locations, and it basically just replicated between the two at line speed. So it was pretty good, little system for what it was. Um, it's probably still running out there, and we built all that for like 28K, which was pretty good when you take it down to how much thousands per terabyte per year. It ended up being a pretty viable solution for what we were doing. So yeah, their little mezzanine storage wasn't bad. That's a company called Storinator. If you guys have never seen Storinator, they're a pretty funny. The 45 drives, right? These guys, they make a bunch of different servers, and this was it. So we had a Storinator. We had the 30. We had a 45 drive. Hold on. We had four. Let's see. I think we had a 45 gig one. And they used to be about 4,500 each. So we spent $9,000 to put one in each location, and then we bought all the discs. The discs were about $8,000 per location, I think. Yeah. So then we were out the door at like 28,000 or so when you added it all up between the two systems. Yeah, this is just fun little. So people aren't super interested in this stuff, but I used to have, when we used to do some of this stuff in the early group, we would go and say, okay, we're going to build a mezzanine storage between the two locations. Let's cost it out, and we would do like the costing side of it. But a lot of Linux engineers aren't really. I know this from training Linux engineers and working with them for a long time. They're not necessarily super interested in the budget side of things. I normally am not that much either. But I think that these are great little devices for people, and I obviously have built them out. So something to think about. Like if you run a smaller shop and you've got a little bit of budget for some of that stuff, but you don't want to go spend a whole bunch on like IBM disks, you can get a lot out of some of that base little just high density for you storage boxes. And if anybody ever needs any help with that, just ask me about it down in the Discord, and I'll kick you over how I do it. So, because I don't mind showing you guys that stuff. I always tell you guys stuff. If you ask me something like that I can explain publicly in the Discord, that's fine. Like if I need to do something private, then I always have to. I tell people I always have to charge you, only because the wife will kill me if I give everything away for free. I don't know if the wife would really kill me, but she might. But she'd more be mad that anyways, it doesn't matter. She always probably thinks I do too much for free anyways, but it's not that big a deal, right? We're doing this stuff to get better, and we're doing this stuff to learn how to be better at the Linux world. So anyways, that's what we're doing. That's what I was doing on that little Storinator project. And yeah. This next one here that we were working on, this is these are our options. So I'm going to be redrawing and redoing how we do access inside of the Linux cluster, and I think that it's going to make for some interesting. I think we've got some interesting things that we can do, and I'll probably be working on it when I get this Kafka stuff set up in the lab. But I think we can do some cool stuff, and if anybody wants to see, Debian, or this is SUSE, or you want to see Alma Linux in our cluster, we can do that. We won't build out. We already have Rocky Linux, but we won't build out CentOS because there's no real point in that. But we'll build out. I'll build any of these other ones out that people are interested in. But I'm only going to build them if people want to do it, right? If people are like, I have a reason for that, I want that in the lab, we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll save our time and stay focused on exactly what we're good at, which is, lab work and getting better at systems admin and systems engineering topics. So yeah, that's what we're doing around here. That's what's hot in the streets, as we say. Oh, I'm just kidding. I don't give a shit. All right. So, again, I'm just hanging out. Let me put a little hourglass up. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to go walk around a little bit. If you guys want to know more about the course, or if you want to hang out and talk shop about stuff down in our Discord, let me know. I'll let you guys know how to get there. Break and walk around a bit. We'll do 10-minute break. So take a 10-minute break, come back at the top of the hour, and we'll wander around and talk about anything you guys think is interesting with the group. All right, we'll be back. I'm the worst at taking breaks. I always come back here and it's like 7 minutes of break left. Oh well. Still break time. Feel free to wander around. We'll get back to it. How's Ranger doing? I was just downstairs by him. Hasn't moved. Go check some other work stuff while we're sitting here. We're back to our first song. Bob Billy over on the YouTube. What did you say? Hey, quick question. Have VPS on which I want to set up a bunch of services with Podman Docker, but I want the services to not be accessible via public IPs. I should be able to just set up a WireGuard. I've never really used WireGuard. And then when I'm connected to the VPNs, use my Docker services, right? VPN when I'm not connected. Yeah. So whenever you set up a VPN, right? Like whatever system you're using, let's say you're using a Windows machine, you'll be able to see your VPN connection. At the end of the day, it looks like this. Hold on, I'll just pull this up real quick. Like I'm on a Windows desktop for work, right? And I've got my system stuff here. And I can at any time go IP config/all. And I can see my VPN connection if I have any VPN connection. I have dual honed VPNs going. So I have this VPN connector over here for OpenVPN Connect, which runs to some of my environments. And I have an IPv4 address for that network. Now, if that's going to work, I have to have, in the Linux or in the Windows world, it's route print. On the Linux side, it's just IPR. And I can print my route, and I would see that if I was going to send information out some address, so if I were going to go to 172 whatever, I would be using one of these IP addresses, right? So 172.25, any of the things in there would be going out this interface or whatever. So yeah, so you can, if you're looking for using a VPN and then connecting in and then accessing resources, you can 100% do that. Essentially that's a networking question, right? Because the question is, can I hit a box and see like port 8080? And the answer is yes. If my TCP is set up correctly where my routing will go over there and then hit that server and then use port 8080, then yes, I can do whatever I need to over VPN, yes. If, however, once you get on your VPN, you're not establishing, there's a bunch of different ways VPNs can work, right? But if you're not establishing a route to get over there on your machine, then you wouldn't be able to get to the Docker services. But yeah, if you have like a network that is completely protected, and only when you VPN in you can get to those services, as long as you can get an IP on that network and have a route over there, you can access any Docker or Podman type resources on that network for sure. Yeah. That's a main component of what your VPN's trying to do for sure. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question for you. If you were like, hey, I have a very specific type of VPN, I would tell you, make sure I'm connecting to it, make sure I'm using my certificates or whatever I'm using to connect to it correctly, and make sure I get on, if I was on a Linux box, I would look for this, because it'll add an interface if you're using a VPN. I actually have a VPN connection on one of my Linux boxes, but I don't have any of them running right now active. And you'll see your IP address, and then I would do an IPR or route, right? And I would see that I have a route into that network, and then I would be able to go touch anything I needed to in that network. So that's the way that I would do that. Just let that run a little bit. It's our little while loop that's just running and checking our system or whatever. So hopefully that's clear as mud. But if you have specifics about that and you want to drop them in the Discord, we do have a networking channel, and we also have a DevOps channel, and I would think either of those would be pretty good for that. If you had like specifics of that you're trying to work through, guys could help you with that, or I can take a look at it later too. I mean, I know there's quite a few of us like sitting around chewing on problems if we have seen it before, if we've seen similar things. Just semi-unsure how it would work with the VPN and then the internal Docker network. Thanks for the answer. Yeah. But if any device can be on that network, now if your Docker is not being shared out from, like, typically, so if we're on a machine, let me go over here. Do I have any Docker running in my environment? I don't think I do. I don't have any Docker running right now, anyways. But if this machine, let's just do this. If he's got, the pod has opened port, let's say 9080, right? And if that's being opened by some pod on there, then that means this machine is listening to it. And if you could get to this IP address, 192.168.11.245, that is going to allow the connection, as long as there's nothing else blocking it, no permissions or anything, firewall or anything, to talk to that pod. It's going to pass it through. Do I have... yeah, I don't have any Docker stuff running on in here, but yeah, that's how I would kind of do it. But yeah, your networking is should be able to work as long as you can. If you could touch it by any other external device in that network, it's 100% sure going to work once you get... Because all you're ever doing with a VPN is establishing a connection across, and then your device just has typically an IP presence from a DHCP pool in that network. It's typically what we do. So, in fact, what I showed you guys was an IP address that I've gathered from joining that open VPN connection on that other system. So it's just another connection that my system can use to route to. And then at that point, we just have to look at the routing table. And the routing table should have the entries, and then everything will work. As long as you're not one of these guys that's running like 172 in your home lab and 172 up in your cloud or something, if there's conflicting ranges, you will cause yourself problems. But for the most part, most of us run some kind of 192 stuff at home and then whatever up there top. Technique Unknown, hello, back after... Yeah, how was, where were you at for a few weeks? Were you on vacation or were you out for something else? I'm trying to get in a few days a week, just kind of like not a study group, but just a daily kind of co-working session while I'm doing other stuff. Just to kind of hang out and let people know that they can hop on the Discord and talk shop with us and stuff. So I'm trying to just be on a little more for you guys, give you guys options to hang out with other engineers that are doing stuff similar to what you're interested in, that kind of stuff. So the rest of the week at night, though, let's say Wednesday, the rest of the week when I'm doing like my normal night sessions, we're gonna be in here building out the next part of the security engineering course, because I need to get this part set up in the lab, and we're going to kind of, I don't know how to put this except like reimagine the lab. Hold on, let's change this to white. As I hate to say it like this, but new lab design for, new lab design for Bastion. And this will be kind of my new plan on what we're doing with the new Bastion stuff. So these will be the two things that we're kind of working on in the course. We'll have the Unit 6, Motherfucker. Most annoying thing ever. we'll be working on these two things here. Yeah, Unit 6 monitoring and parsing logs, and then new lab design for Bastion, because I think I can make our Bastion host much more effective and much better with just a tiny little bit of kind of DevOpsy work. And if anybody wants to work on that with me, we'll probably be doing it live the next couple nights, but we'll also push it up into in our Discord or in our GitHub here. My stream setup is an actual setup for CentOS 7 and 8 systems, but I'm going to be redefining this and rebuilding this to also support RHEL or Rocky 9 systems, because I need to get off of my CentOS 7 Bastion host. He's kind of old. He's kind of tired and old, so we need to get off of him. Need to get off of that system, and that'll be a big part of our labs. Or our next couple nights of just kind of actual streaming when I'm not just co-working and doing other stuff. This will be what we're laying out here. So went to Vegas for a week for WrestleMania, and then went to Amsterdam on your way home. Nice. I've been through Amsterdam one time. I didn't get to leave the airport, unfortunately. Not that I was ever like I didn't ever partake of any of the things that people tend to go to Amsterdam for. But I flew into Amsterdam to fly into Kuwait to then wait to go into Iraq, and that was the reason we did that was because we didn't get to go in through Turkey because Turkey stopped our vehicles. If you guys don't remember, Turkey had allowed America to invade Iraq from the north, but then Turkey said, no, if you're not going to let us go and take the Kurdish lands to the north, then we're not going to let you go through. So my company actually, we were traveling over there, and we ended up having to go down to Kuwait instead and wait for our vehicles to come from the Mediterranean Sea all the way around Africa and then come up to Kuwait, and then we took everything north of Baghdad when Iraq fell. That was my unit in Iraq in 2003. So yeah, because we were supposed to be the tip of the spear from the north, but instead we were like the tip of the spear from the south that took everything north of Baghdad. So kind of a weird thing. Instead of doing like an anaconda move, we ended up doing like just a double push from the south, which is not nearly as cool. I'm just kidding. But anyways, that's all true, but that's not really the point of this. We can see all of our systems there on the left pulling their logs. That is all the what we call the we've got the system, and then we've got the runtime overlays. So those are all the runtime overlays being pulled inside of Werewolf, and then we're looking at disk I/O on the main system to make sure that the cluster is not under any type of heavy load. And then we just got some security stuff that's kind of been applied inside of our labs and things that we have exceptions for. And then we're back to the operations. So we're really just kind of on the left is kind of like a poor man's cluster management, cluster watching source. On the right, we're doing stuff a little more modern with Grafana, and these are all Grafana with Telegraph and InfluxDB. And then all the lab stuff, all the logs that you see is with a tool called Loki. And Promtail pushes all the stuff to Loki. So in case anybody's wondering where all this data are coming from, this is just this is all the users in the last 6 hours that have tried to log into my system and gotten themselves kicked out forever, because they eventually get jailed out in failed to ban. So it's always fun. Oh, and I gotta do some stuff with my college too. Lots to do today, guys. Lots of stuff to do. Lots of stuff to work on. I'm mostly just kind of hanging out here while I'm waiting for some other system accesses in my in one of my government projects too. But yeah, techniques unknown. I'm glad you made it back. Sounds like you're probably getting back into work, which is never the fun thing, right? Having to get back into the scheme of work. But I take most of my vacation that I take, I'm going to take in July. So we got a couple months out. Go down to Mexico for a couple weeks. I go down there with a bunch of my friends from wrestling, or it's more aptly put, it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but most people think that that's karate, so I just call it wrestling so people don't think it's the same thing. Yeah, because it's not, it's closer to grappling and wrestling than it is close to like saying hi-ya and all that stuff. So yeah, but I'm just kind of hanging out, making sure everything is kosher in the lab, making sure everything's running and is available for people. We're going to be working this week in a lot of the monitoring stuff and the capabilities we have. And we're going to start looking more into like the capacity of our systems. How much are we using our systems, and how can we use these systems we have more effectively? And that'll be a big part of this week's security engineering and kind of what I'm building out the next few days. Because I would like to, I mean, we have all these systems, but we're not using all of them. And I would like to be more efficient with how we do use them. And for that to work properly, I have to modernize the way that I'm letting people into the Bastion. So that's going to be, we're gonna let Ansible handle some of that stuff. Where we're gonna go check some things. I said Ansible, not animal. We're gonna let Ansible go and make some decisions and build some stuff out. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be an interesting little process for people to see. I have it in my head. I've never actually built what I'm going to build out before, so I'm just going to kind of wing it and see how it goes. But I think it'll work. So we'll we'll do it. But we're not going to do it right now because this is more like chill time. But it's good to know that we have a plan for it. So. So yeah, that's what we're doing around here. What's our time at? Yeah, what else do we got going on around here? Yep, just kind of making sure everything's working in the lab. That's what we're doing. Go check my Teams messages. Teams and Slack. Always Teams and Slack going on. Makes for some interesting workflows to have all those different channels and stuff running in an environment, having all those different things you got to respond to. Because I have obviously my internal teams that I talk to, and then I also have multiple customers that I kind of support on the government, and I guess I have some non-government projects that I work on too as well. But basically, I get added to different Slack channels all the time. I just pop in Slack channels sometimes, and then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm in this one now too. So it's kind of a thing you gotta get used to, kind of surfing over and looking for things that mention you and making sure that you have alerts set up right on your desktop, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's always useful. Pull up my notepad while we're sitting here too. Let's go to Go to one. This one might be fun for some people. We had some job skills example stuff that we did a while back, and maybe we'll talk through that every now and then. I'll pull that up a little bit, and because a lot of the times people are interested in like what the job looks like as a systems administrator. We've been focusing a lot on systems administration because a lot of people have been saying they want to get into the field, and that tends to be where you get started. We also do a fair amount of like heavy systems engineering stuff, which kind of assumes that you know a lot of the systems admin stuff. Maybe you've been doing it for a while, and then you want to learn how to build things and be repeatable and have your functions and everything that you're doing work all the times that it's supposed to do it, basically. So, anyways, where I'm going with that is the systems admin stuff that I'll pull up would be focused on like getting people into the industry, like jobs that we've looked at, jobs that were out there, and then just kind of there's some notes there of like things that I think that you need to know as an admin to get the role, things that I look for when I'm the guy that's in the technical interview. Kind of things that I think are interesting as well. So, yeah. Gotta check these logs. By the way, these logs are all accessible inside of Loki for whatever type of query that people want to do. I don't have them locked down right now with certs, which I probably should, and I'm probably going to do that in the future. I'm going to make Loki only allow communications via certificates, and then give the certificates to Promtail and also to Grafana for both the writes and the reads. But we're going to do that in our lab environment in our course on Unit 10. In fact, I didn't have anything for Unit 10, so I just called it certificate and key management or key madness. So we're just going to do a lot of certificate and key management stuff that week. I'm going to show you guys where to go figure out more about that stuff if you need to. So that's kind of where we're at. That's what we're doing. Pull this one up for a little while. Go jump over here. This was our werewolf server. By the way, that thing that was just on the screen, I put in the meeting notes. So if anybody says, "Hey Scott, I need those things that you used in the presentation," they're all right here. So you can go look at those at your leisure if you want. You can even turn them back into ASCII art. If you need the images that I used, I can give you guys the images that I used. Just let me know. But anyways, that's what that was. Let's go over here, and this is from an actual job board. And the actual job board said they want you to be able to install, configure, and maintain Linux operating systems for Red Hat, CentOS, Ubuntu, and software applications. Well, you need to, in my mind, they're asking you for a lot of stuff, but let's say this first part with over here with maintaining, because as a new person in a company, you're probably going to start maintaining things, and they're not going to have you build stuff right off the bat, unless that's specifically what they hired you for. But as admins, you're going to be installing and updating things, so you're going to have these tools. You're going to let's go like 24. What's his uptime look like? So I rebooted him last night, I think, but in here, you're going to have like DNF, search all for like Cowsay. That's some tool that exists out there. And we can go find all the things that match that. Now, Cowsay doesn't have much, but you know what does is Python. Go look at Python. Probably going to be pages of Python, yeah. And if somebody needed you to install something, well, hell, you could just do DNF install whatever they need. But what if they don't know how to ask you the right name? They're like, well, I need it to be something Rust related, but it needs to be, and maybe they need you to go check the versions that are available from your repositories. Well, you can go check the versions available right here, right? But up here, I want to show you guys this kind of a fun thing with this, if you're ever messing with this. When you use DNF Search All, which is a pretty great little tool, it'll tell you how it matched. And I want to get up to the top to start it. But if we can't get all the way, yeah, we can't get all the way up to the top, we'll just find the first one here that we can see. And right here it says the name and the summary and the URL all had Python in it. So that's probably a heavy correlation. Like those are going to be heavily, what we want. It's going to be very much Python related. It's probably, yeah, look, it's all these Python packages by name, and Python 3 tends to be anything Python 3. Python without the 3 tends to be Python 2.7. Now, some of you are probably using Python and say, well, Scott, why would anybody even mention Python 2.7? That has been deprecated for, I don't know, 6-7 years now. When did they officially stop supporting Python 2.7? It's been a long time. But that process of porting code over from 2 to 3 has taken some companies years. Some companies never intend to do it. They're just going to keep running on old stuff. So very early on, and I know Red Hat did this because I know the outcome. I wasn't sitting in the meetings when this was decided, but I can tell you for sure they said, well, we're going to keep supporting 2 for a long time, because even till today you can still get a hold of version 2.7, or I think it's 2.7, or it might be 2.8 of Python on a Red Hat box out of the box. So then we also have 3, and the reason I show you that is maybe somebody wants you to install something and maybe make sure that you have whatever different tools within like Python 3 or whatever. I don't even know what Zope does, but Zope testing framework, Python 3-Zope-testing. Boom. Right? I don't even know. And maybe you just install Zope and it does all of them. Who knows? But you can play with that. My point is, you have to know how to install and update software. And then more importantly, I think, than just doing ticket work is making sure that you also know to document that. I did that because of this trouble ticket on these 10 machines, and make sure that your CMDB is getting that information, right? That's your configuration management database. And then so in the build process, if you are being asked to build servers, there's an early decision if it's going to be a stateful fat machine or if it's going to be a stateless thin network provision machine. My home lab servers are all stateful. They're all stateless thin machines, right? And we use the Werewolf daemon to run all of that, right? And that would be an early decision. Do we want to have a cluster manager? Cluster managers are XCAT, Werewolf, Beowulf. Yeah, those are both from CIQ. What other ones are there? HPCM from Cray, HPCM is from HPE. Cray used to have Shasta, but Shasta's kind of gone. Anyways, you might say, Scott, I've never heard of any of those. Well, that's fine. You're probably not doing cluster management. But if you get into doing cluster management, you might need to go look into some of those things, right? Maybe you find a Linux admin role where you can start out with some of that stuff. So an early decision would be, how are we going to build these things? Am I building them stateful fat machines on physical boxes or virtual, servers, right? And then thin provisioned can also be thin can be on physical or virtual as well. Don't think that a thin machine is only a virtual machine. I do thin or stateless deployments on physical machines all the time. They're actual big, beefy 2 terabytes of RAM servers with 256 cores of CPU in them, and in some cases GPU as well. And they are stateless still. They come up and they have no knowledge of who they are, and they get built by the cluster as they come up. Then how do we connect? We take an ISO. We got an ISO in the network somewhere. So let's go like Hammer 24 here. And we CD to like lab work. And maybe on this machine here, under lab work and then repos, in here, maybe somebody put, we'll just look at all of them, the Rocky 9.5 ISO for us, and then we can share that out via NFS or something, and then we can attach to it from another device and connect to it. And if you want to see what that kind of looks like, a lot of times if we're using ISOs, we're doing a virtual drive-in iDRAC um, or IPMI. IPMI is your Internet Protocol Management Interface, and some servers have the ability for you to just kind of go into them like a web page. I don't know if any of you guys have worked with those, but IPMI is this kind of the last maybe 7 or 8 years of servers. You just, if you plug into the IPMI interface, when the server comes up, it's basically like a little web page, and you can do all of your web management right there. And I don't know, it's so wild to me that it's like everything has come like full circle. In the Red Hat world, they call that cockpit, but it's just, it's back to the GUI, and I don't like dealing with them via the GUI. I like dealing with them with a tool like IPMI tool, because, and you say, why is it because you're, snob and you don't want to use the GUI? No, it's just that, I could be the fastest clicker on planet Earth, and I can still only click so many things in a day. If you gave me a web page and I was really, really good at clicking, I could still probably only like click through like, I don't know what in a day, maybe 40 servers, maybe, if I'm just clicking and doing all this stuff. But if I know how to do those same things with IPMI tool, and I can automate it, then I can touch a bunch of my servers remotely, boot them up, boot them to an ISO, make them come up, do whatever we need to, right? So ISOs and this type of deployment tends to be if you're doing a stateful machine, which is your fat machines. And then stateless machines tend to boot over NetBoot or iPXE of the system. So we just saw that. If you were here and you watched me reboot all these nodes over here, all the Rocky boxes, you saw me do iPXE boot of all those nodes. And then you saw them come up, and then they had a new version of the image that we had just built the container with Cronny in it. And Cronny came up like that so that we had crontab. It was right the first time, CC, Cronny. CRONI, oh, whatever. I love my stupid little closed captioning. That thing is not set for engineering. It is not set for engineering level. Like, we're talking about system stuff. All right, anyways. They want you to be able to monitor. This is, again, these are exact job board requirements from jobs. We just stripped off who the company was, right? And the next one was monitor system performance and troubleshoot issues related to server hardware, operating systems, and software. Well, there's a thing called the Big Four. The Big Four are the things that admins tend to care about for CPU, memory, disk, and network. Now, I have a whole presentation on this one, but essentially, we can look on a box and say, is that under high load? Not really. Is that under high load? Not really. Look, it's basically just sitting there chilling. Okay, cool. You can use top and some of these other things and see that the system's also not under high load, but not a lot of like sysadmins and engineers will probably pull up top. They'll be using, because, and again, this isn't for snobby, snooty reasons. It's just that I can't do this I can look at this, I can run this and I can pull information out of this. I can run this and pull information out of this. But interactive stuff like this doesn't really work that way. It's not the same. So this is more for like when you're just kind of casually watching something throughout the day, or doing admin stuff while you're sitting there. This is stuff that I can automate and go look at later. And some of you guys have seen how I do that with Ansible and stuff, and there's we have labs on that. But that's all CPU stuff. Then we got memory. Free-M. How much of the system is being used? Well, we got almost 2 gigs free of a 4 gig box. I'd say the system's mostly chilling. The things that are used are all sitting in buffer cache, so it's not really doing much except running wwctl, which is a client, or ww client, that's the werewolf client. So it's not really doing much. Then how is our disk doing? There's two components to disk, and then they kind of break down a little further. But disks have I/O to them. So how much is the current disk being utilized for transactions per second, read and write in, and then are there discards? If there's discards on either reads or write, that's important because that could help us to see that we're having disk errors coming up, right? But again, this is one of those things I could go pull stuff out of here and read these fields however I want. Interesting stuff like that, right? So the other component of disk is how full is it. So that's I/O. I/O is one thing. That's how much in and out, you can stuff things into the system or pull things out from the disks. There's also the size of the disk, and there's another component of size that people very rarely ever look at, and that's inode usage. You will probably never run out of inodes on a Linux box that you run. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just say some, wild engineering claim that unless you do something just like you're doing something completely ornery, you will never run out of inodes on a local Linux box ever. I just couldn't see you doing it. But in the enterprise, there are a few times in my career where we run out of inodes, typically in big parallel file systems. Like it was GPFS both times. But we have ways to modify that and make that better. But running out of inodes is just as bad as running out of actual disk space, because you have no more. These are all the addressable memory tickets, if you will, that you can use to address actual memory that's out on the shelves, if you want to think of it like that, right? This is the back-end storage. This is like the back-end storage that you actually have, and this is like your way to reference and address or find that storage. That's what your DF-I is, right? So that's your disk stuff. And then your network, we can do all kinds of things on the network too. But again, you guys will always hear me talk about these ones in the context of this thing called use, which is utilization, saturation, and errors. So we look at how utilized something is, then we look at the saturation of it, and then we look for errors in it, right? Utilization is always 0 to 100%. Saturation is always a queue starts to form, and then errors are things that are hopefully logged as queue times and timeout values start to get hit because of. All right, so then we got our network, right? And there's a bunch of ways to look at the network on a system. You can check that the network's there, right? But then you've got tools, so you can do like SAR-N, maybe TCP, and then one, and lowercase n. And this will tell us how the TCP packets are doing on my interfaces. I would tell you this box is not under high load. Then we also have maybe dev, and we can see all of the devices. So this is the two devices on this system are loopback, which isn't doing anything, in ETH0. And if I just wanted to see aggregate raw receive and transmit, RX is always your receive and transmit is always your TX, right? That'll always be true in engineering everywhere, so that's a good one to remember. I can look here and say, am I approaching any upper limits? Am I in my load testing, I may try to verify that I can hit like an upper limit of this before I start to see errors. But I'm not seeing any errors here. I'm just seeing raw receive, and this is a raw aggregate value of everything received and sent on a system, right? But I can come back here and I can say, but of those, give me the errors and the TCP. So I want the good TCP and the bad TCP. So here's my active, passive, normal traffic, and then I have my failure type traffic events. And you can look at them separate if you want. So here's all the error events that are happening in the TCP IP stack, right? Here's your TCP IP stack errors right here. So I have a whole presentation on this. This is up in the Discord. If you say, Scott, I want that, it's all here. You go to our presentations, and this is called this basic thing that I'm going over right now is called, it's right here. It's called Linux sysadmin. Yeah, Linux Systems Administration from 5/18 last year. And I said, boom, I'm not a liar, because I hadn't put it up for a long time, but it's finally up there. So if you want that PowerPoint and you want to look at that stuff, that's fair game. And it walks you through more of these. If you want to see what I mean by more, it looks like this. Hold on. Where's Linux Systems Administration? So this will be a quick look at it. It's so that use methodology that we were just talking about, and then it's like uptime, VM stat, MP stat, PID stat, IO stat, SAR, and then these are the utilization, saturation, and errors across CPU, memory, disk, and network that I was just talking about. So there's boom, all that stuff for you guys, and then just things you might want to know about a system, and then observability and testing and benchmarking and all that. So anyways, that's all there for you guys to play with if you want. I got a lot of stuff up in the Discord, but my point in showing you guys this is you have to be able to look at a system and see how it's doing, and then hopefully as you kind of do more and more of this, you realize that hey, we're not great at that as humans. Just looking at it like this. Plus, I need to make sure somebody has Linux skills. I should present them stuff like this. This is very much easier for you guys to read and understand. Even if you had no idea what was going on, you might say, well, this is how much server CPU he's got using. And it seems like it spikes once a day. This is every 7 days right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 days, 7 spikes. What the hell's going on in his environment? Well, that's when my ClamAV runs antivirus in my cluster, right? So we would expect things to shoot up a little bit over there. Here's all the people failing to log in. Here's the people banned out for IPs forever. And then here's the actual last 6 hours of those people coming in and trying to get into our system, and the bullshit somebody's been trying to get in as root and got themselves locked out forever, right? Because root will never log in on our system for other reasons, right? Anyway, so my point in showing you guys all that is, monitoring isn't just doing it at the command line. We should be able to look at stuff at the command line and give a quick output and understanding of how utilized saturation or errors are being, are happening in our system. But we don't have to, show, like, we're not going to show somebody else how to do these commands. We're the Linux admins. We're the Linux engineers. We have to be able to do these, and then understand what's happening and be able to tell somebody definitively, no, this server is not experiencing. I'm on the right server. I got its name. I am not seeing TCP errors. Now you're saying that you're getting a lot of retransmits. I'm not seeing that on my side. Where is the disconnect? Typically at that point, we're going to have to go to TCP dump, and we're going to have to dump everything that's hitting this actual box. Maybe something's getting blocked somewhere. Maybe something's tried to establish too many connections, and a firewall is blocking off more TCP handshakes, right? We call those embryonic connections when they're half open. Maybe something has made a mistake that is now being triggering the firewall or something like that to block it. And now we could start to dig in on, well, we're not even seeing that traffic. So why are we not seeing that traffic? And then we can start to do that old engineering thing, ask why 5 times. We could do there's all kinds of things we could do, right? But anyways, all right. So then it says these are real job security things or job skills and tasks that we looked at a while back. Implement and maintain security measures to protect Linux systems from unauthorized access, malware, and other security threats. So they just want you to know how to secure Linux here. So I say if you're building from new, you follow some industry standards, CIS benchmarks, STIG standards. Are you doing FIPS for Federal Information Processing? Are you using SE Linux? More labeling on top of the file system. For us, we're running permissive SE Linux. So we are running SE Linux in our cluster, but we're running it in a very kind of chilled out way, right? So anyways, this is like our stream job examples, and then how do we maintain servers? Well, we make sure that ports aren't open that shouldn't be. We remove old unused software, typically as part of our patching process. We audit users and logins, and we track with fail to ban, and then like Loki and Grafana. So these are the tools that we built out over here. And if you say, well, Scott, that's cool, but I don't have access to build these things, I tell you, you do have access to build these things. There's a little site out there called Killer Coda, which is like the best free site on the web, I think. I really do think this is like the best free site on the web. And I built some labs here. I don't get anything when you guys use my labs. Like, they don't pay me anything. I'm not asking for anything. You just have to go in and sign up for Killer Coda, which again is free. And you can come right here and you can build out monitoring Linux logs with Loki and Grafana. And you can do that lab if you want. We're not going to do it right now, but we do it on Sundays sometimes. And then you can go and you can build and have your own. It'll look exactly like that when we're done with it. Look exactly like that. You can go put whatever values you want up in there. So, love Killer Coda. I think it's one of the best free things on the web. I have a whole bunch of labs out there for you guys. I haven't counted them up in a while, but it looks like I've got, is that 36 plus that? Is that 67 now? I think somewhere around 67 labs now for you guys out there. And one of these days I'll go through all of them again, and we'll just keep adding to. Maybe we'll even add to the lab book a little bit because we got a lab book out there. That's the only thing around here that anybody pays for. It's the lab book from LeanPub, and it walks you guys through this stuff. I mean, the labs are standalone, but you could also have that as kind of like a journal, right? So look around Linux system, and then it just asks you some like deeper questions around it. These notes, all these notes right here, which are just about job skills, these are also up in our Discord. So you go to Discord, you go to meeting notes. Where's that? There, we have our more serious things up here. Yeah, so it's under meeting notes. These are some of our drawings from recent stuff. These are our technical questions for interviews. But where's that? It's up here a little bit. I did another series that was similar to this, which was what an admin needs to know about like NFS and Apache. But these notes, these particular notes are right here, the actual job board requirements. And this is a different one. No, these are the same ones right here that we're looking at right here. These are the ones we just went over. So if anybody told me, hey Scott, I need those, I want to review those, there you go. Boom. We have so much stuff in the Discord for you guys to go through if you're interested in it. And I think much more than just that thing that you guys can go look at, because obviously just walking around and doing all the Linux stuff is going to be good for you. But the fact that you can run into and talk to other engineers and admins and people at different levels of their career, and I think most of the guys in the server are pretty helpful. You will get you know, it's like we call rubbing elbows, right? You'll hear how we talk about stuff. You'll see what people post as interesting tech type news and that kind of stuff, and yeah, you'll get a lot of value out of it. So again, I tell people all the time, join our Discord if you want. If it's not for you, if you you know, I don't like any of these Linux guys, well, go do database work, go do security work. I don't know exactly what you guys want to do, but find someone that's doing it. That's my best advice. If it's not us, find somebody. Look at Ranger down there. Fucking that dog has not moved this whole stream. I can see him breathing though, so I know he's still alive. But he scared the crap out of me last night, guys. I'm telling you, he was laying on. I'll go back here. He was laying on this bed, and he was facing towards this corner right here. And I was walking in from the hallway over here, and he just had his eyes open, and he was just like looking forward. And I was like, "Hey, Ranger," and he didn't like move. And I was like, "Ranger, are you okay?" And he did not move. And then I was like, "Ranger, do you want a treat?" And his ears perked up just a little bit. But I'm gonna tell you guys right now, he was looking right at me for like over 15 seconds, and he did not move. He did not register me with his eyes. He did not do anything. And I was like, "Are you dead, Ranger?" And then that's about the time he like moved. I was like, "Good God, man!" He scared the crap out. I thought he was just laying there dead. Oh man! But because he's an old dog, guys. Like he breathes heavy when he just gets up, and I was really worried about him last night because he legitimately did not move for like over 15 seconds until I said the word treat, and then he was like, "Oh, sorry, no, you're speaking my language, buddy." I'm like, "Yeah, I know we're speaking your language. It's a language you've been using for almost 14 years. Is you just like treat?" I think it's the first word he ever learned, but yeah, he's a good dog. We like Ranger. Also, gotta go check something. I think we're almost to 3,900 people. Let me go look at. Where's this at? Oh, members, here it is. I just want to see. Yeah, we're almost to 3,900. I'm gonna go change our little thing up. Go change our little. Where's that at? All right, hold on. File. Open. What is that? We're just gonna say approximately 4,000. There we go. Control S. Save. Yeah, because we're closing in on 4,000 people. So yeah, Bailey. Everybody loves Ranger, man. He's just a good dog. He gets like It's really funny because he doesn't have the energy he used to, but when we have like parties and all the nieces and nephews, they still have a whole bunch of energy. They'll just go sit by him and pet him, and he'll just sit there and he just gets all the attention and stuff. And he's a pretty good all around. He's pretty good all around little dog. I think the wife took him. He had gotten up to about 120 pounds in his life, and I think the wife took him to the vet a couple weeks ago, and he was only like 98 or something. So he's a little smaller than he was, but he's not a small dog. Like, he kind of looks small because the camera's far away from him, but he stands almost up to my hip, and I'm 5'11", so like I'm not short by any stretch, and he's not a smaller dog. He's more of like a bigger on the mid-sized range of dogs. I wouldn't quite call him like a super large or anything like that, but he's definitely bigger on like the on the mid-sized range of dogs anyways, you know. But yeah, he was so fast when he was younger. The only thing he's ever done in his life, he's never chewed on anything except for a tennis ball. I don't know what it was about tennis balls. He has toys since he was a baby dog that sit there, like you can see the toys by him. The toys are over here. We could put him out and lay him by him. He'd never chew them. He's had them since he was a baby. The same same 3 toys, and then we got a new one for him, so like 4. But all he's ever chewed up was we would go throw the ball in the backyard for him, and he would just chew up tennis balls. Not even chew them up, just he would chase them. He just wanted to chase things. And now he's old. He hasn't chased a ball in probably about 2 years. Last time somebody threw a ball to him, he just looked and was like, ugh, I ain't getting that. And he just fucking sat there. So, yeah, he's all right, though. He's a good dog. He's just old. He's just so old. That's the thing about Ranger. All right, let's go back here. Whoops. Oh, I'm on. There we go. We just bang while, and then we'll run that over there. So, yeah, we're co-working. I'm on my other screen doing some other stuff and just kind of hanging out and talking with you guys. So, most of the stuff we do is to get the hobbyists that do this stuff for fun into doing this stuff professionally. So if you're like, hey, I do this stuff, I enjoy it. Maybe you're an arch enjoyer. I'm not gonna shit on anybody's fun. People like doing arch, and that's a type of Linux people love. But I will kind of advise people, play with your arch Linux, and then learn and work on your Red Hat and your Ubuntu and your SUSE, because those are the ones that people are using in the enterprise. Those are the ones that people will pay you money for. You can come home and play with Arch all day. Arch and NixOS and these other ones that are kind of, you know, up and coming, and just ones that have Nix is more up and coming. Arch has been around a long time, but you know, feel free to play with those. But then when you want to do the stuff professionally for a company, you have to use one of the ones. You have to go where the company is. Basically, you got to go where the work is, right? If you build walls and you go to like a country that has a bunch of walls already, well, that's not going to help you. You got to go build walls where somebody's trying to build walls, right? Where they need that kind of work. It's the same kind of thing. That's actually, by the way, that's this right here. This is the things. These are the packages that we could run in the lab. So I am going to, yeah, we're gonna modify. We got to modify the Bastion system, and I have a good idea how to do it. So we're gonna play with this and get this going the way that we need it to. And I think that hopefully will inspire more people to use the lab and stuff. So that'll be good. I think that'll be cool. Yeah, I got plans, guys. But yeah, these are the ones that we could use. So even Debian isn't used as much. However, we can use Debian, and we can say this is where Ubuntu is derived from. Ubuntu is a derivative of Debian, right? It comes from it. And so we could use Debian and say, well, we're doing this for the Ubuntu side of things. And if you say, well, why would you make the distinction? Well, because Ubuntu is actually something that can be used in government systems, U.S. government systems. You can use Ubuntu if you want nowadays. That probably got laxed in 2020. That's when I first saw that. 2020 is around the time when it got through. So anyway, so we're going to be adding some of these to the home lab and having some more nodes that do other stuff. That should be good. Even at my job, the manager upgrade CentOS 7, I think it was to Rocky 9. Yeah, that sounds right, Quartz. Rocky 9, if you do it right, can also be supported by CIQ. So people that want to, looks like my It's like my thing busted. Yeah. But even if you wanted to pay and have support because maybe your organization is trying to go public or something. You're like, hey, we're a good little company. We're trying to go public, but one of the requirements of Sarbanes-Oxley is that you have support for your technical environment. You could use Rocky 9 and then use 9.2 or 9.4, or they're on 9.5, so 9.5 would also be good, but then 9.6 when it comes out. They support only the 9 dot even versions or the most recent one. So that's kind of an interesting little thing to note if you're ever working on Rocky Linux, you want to stay on 9.4 until 9.6 comes out, and then you want to jump there because they won't support 9.5 anymore once they go to 9.6. And if you say, how do you know that? Well, I know that because I'm working on a government system where we built 9.3 when 9.3 was still being supported, and then we rolled to 9.4, then we rolled to 9.5, but the system was still on 9.3. And then when we went to get support, they're like, well, you can't get support on 9.3. We only do long-term support on 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, 9.8, and 9.10, which aren't out yet. But the point is, that is the worst closed captioning I've ever seen for what I just said. All those fucking numbers. Oh my god. Maybe I got to just put a little more of a break in between what I'm saying. That was terrible. Oh, my closed captioning makes me just. I almost just want to turn it off sometimes, but I leave it on because I know some people like it. Also, I found out that I don't know if this is everybody, but YouTube picks people. It says it picks people. Maybe it just sends it to everybody. I don't know. But on the YouTube side, you're supposed to automatically be able to translate me talking once this is recorded into a bunch of different languages. There's like I think like 7 or 8 languages that they're supposed to be able to translate me directly over into. And it's really funny. I hope my voice doesn't get like some weird like it's like if you guys ever watch I watch a lot of animation like Japan. Why am I drawing a blank on it? The fuck is it? Anime. I watch a fair amount of anime, and it's funny. Like you hear the characters in Japanese, and they're all like these tough sounding people that you can't understand, and that's if you're reading the closed captioning. But then when they switch them over to English, they sound like a little bit like this. And you're like, what the fuck? That guy had the toughest, like, deepest voice I ever heard. But the dude that's, like, talking about it, like, the dude over here in English that they got to translate sounds like shit. like, what the hell kind of... when I say that, I mean, he doesn't sound like the character was originally intended, is my point. So, Ansible did say animal. Well, and I'm okay with Ansible when it says answerable, because that's the term it came from. So when it says answerable, I'm like, well, that's fine. Because that's a real word, and that's what Ansible comes from. It's the word answerable. And you guys can go look up the history of that if you want. There's some interesting history there. Fun fact, too, when you read the history or you see somebody talk about it, the guys who named Ansible named it after Orson Scott Card used it in the book Ender's Game. He used the Ansible, and that's where they used it from. But he was not the first person to use the word Ansible. There was a writer before him, a female in like the 70s that did sci-fi, and he gave credit to her. He's like, no, she was the first one to come up with it. I just thought it was a good name. And then but anyways, when you hear people reference Ansible, like, yeah, that's her name. Yeah, she was the first. But people will say like, but it's a reference to her book, and it's like that's not true. It is. He paid homage to her. He said, hey, I got this from her. She had a really good book. I used that. But the guys who wrote Ansible did it because of Orson Scott Card's Ender Game book. And Ender's Game is a absolute fantastic book. I read that in high school too, by the way. That was such a good book. I couldn't, man. Everybody told me to read all the rest of them, and I just couldn't. I picked up Eater of the Dead or whatever the second one is, and I just put it down. Never got into it. I have not read any of her stuff. No, I probably should. I need to put her up here. Is that how you spell it? Is that right? What are her books? I'm gonna see if I've read any of her. I don't think I've ever read. I've read a lot of books in my life, guys. Like, I've read a fair amount. I have not read any of her stuff. Nope. Looks like she was still writing late into her life too, in the 90s. She was born in the 20s, so she was probably in her late 60s. She was still writing. Yeah, yeah. And it looks like she passed away at 88. So yeah. Also, looks like she was married a long time. Jeez, that is a long marriage. And it sounds like she passed away. So that sounds like that's what. But yeah, wow. Also, I've read Tolkien since I was a kid. I have never seen his name written like that. I've never seen the rest of his name. J.R.R. Tolkien. I've read Tolkien again since I was a kid. I've read like The Hobbit probably about 15 times, and I've read through The Lord of the Rings at least 10 times since I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. I've never seen his full name like that ever once. Anyways, yeah, I don't know which of her books to start on if I was going to read one. Is there a good series? Hanish series. There's the Earth Sea series. I think I've seen this in a library before, but I didn't pick it up and read it. Yeah, if you guys don't know, I've read a lot of books in my life. I grew up in libraries as a kid, so Earthsea is probably her most popular. Her Wheel of Time. Fair enough. And she would have written that in her. She would have been like 39 when that was published because she was born in 29. It said. So I'm just trying to align that to like where she was in life, you know. Um, I will. By the way, guys, I will never read a spoiler. Like if anybody ever spoils something for me, I will. The number one way, and you can call me a big baby for this. You can do whatever you want. It's the same. It's basically what happened to me when, because I was young when Sixth Sense came out. The Sixth Sense. I was a teenager when that movie came out, and somebody ruined it for me. I have never to this day watched that fucking movie. Won't watch it. Anyways, where I'm going with that is when people tell me something, they're like, "Oh, you really like it." It's this one part, and I'm like, "You just guaranteed I'm never gonna read that book." Once you like spoil, I know you guys aren't spoiling and stuff. I'm just saying like, call me a big baby. I don't read or watch things once they've been spoiled. So I'm. I don't like it. That's not the intention of the author or the person who wrote it to have that be known, you know. So yeah, Quartz, that's a problem. Yeah. I have to set aside time to read. If I don't set aside time to read, I won't read. Um, and if I sit at my computer, I won't read anything but technical stuff, right? So there's, yeah, you have to spend time with it. But let me hold on. What was that? Earthsea? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me is that on Amazon? It's just a 4 book set. Let me just move that down out of the way here. I will I'll look at that. Yeah, but I like physically having books. I don't know if you guys have seen my house, but I have I know some of you guys have seen pictures and stuff, but like we definitely we game around here and we have bookshelves around here. I've kept this will be some of you guys will be like, "Oh, this guy's a madman." Well, if you stick around for any amount of time, you'll know I'm a madman anyways, but I have every book for every college class I've ever taken, and I have every book for every college class I've ever taught. I have all of them. Keep them all. Now, in the last 10 years, much more things have gone all electronic, so I don't really have the physical copies as much anymore. But I have all the books. I it's like I like to have all the books. I don't know why. I just like having them. I know I can put them all on my phone, but I still like having the physical book. Sometimes when I reference things, I'll still go pull out. Like I've got TCP/IP books from college that just go super in depth on some networking thing, and if I need to go look at it, I'll go pull the book out still. So yeah, I have books. I'll take pictures of them for you guys, and I'll put them up in like the off topics channel. But I have these books that when I was working at Lockheed Martin, I worked out at the Goodyear facility, and they closed the Goodyear facility down in 2013. And when they were closing it down, they decommissioned the library. And I have books that were in the library there from like the 30s on like de-icing plane wings. Pretty cool little books. And they're like fabric bound almost. So it's actually really interesting. I have an early like computer systems algorithms book. Oh shoot. Yeah, Colchis. We were talking about that earlier a little bit. You were probably in and out, but I was saying how Red Hat still pushes Python 2, even though Python 2 stopped being supported. Like I don't know, without even looking it up, I'd guess 7 or 8 years ago. I might even be wrong. It might have been further back than that, but people did not port off of it as much as you might have thought. Oh wow, what happened here? Did this reset? Dark mode. Apparently this thing has reset because it doesn't have the other stuff with it. But yeah, we're going to update this process right in here soon for how all this stuff works. Yeah, cool, because people stayed on 2 for a long time. Like, because there were so many little mundane things that had to change for you to port stuff from 2 to 3 that I mean, you couldn't port anything over. Like, they changed the way print worked. You used to just be able to print in print and then whatever. Now it's a function. It was okay. It was always a function, but I'm saying the input to the function was just print and then some quotes. Now it's your brackets and all that other stuff and parentheses, right? And then like that was a total lift and shift for people. And then obviously you gotta make sure you can import all your libraries, and it's just a lot of work. So I had somebody I was talking to yesterday. He was doing some Ansible stuff, and he was like, Scott, look at this Ansible variables thing that we're doing. It was like a lookup pipe filter to like some regex for an individual line, and then it was like another pipe filter to what was the last thing doing? I forget, like a specific part of the line. And he's like, this isn't working. I got this from ChatGPT, and then he filtered it down a few more times and he got it to work. But I was like, well, yeah, I mean, like, you're also trying to do this thing that like I can think of like 3 other ways to maybe do it where I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah, I get it, Colchis, yeah. What was I thinking though? Anyways, I forget where I was going with that. Oh, I was going to show you guys my books, my old books, because I have these old books that are just they're all super interesting because like the fabric bound book, they don't really do that anymore. I mean, I doubt there's as many people making books now as there were back then because there's so much more on the internet. But it was yeah. Hold on, let me go grab one. Maybe I'll grab all of them. Hold on. All those books. These freaking books, man. I'll pull these up for a second here. So, I took books that I thought were interesting. And again, they were, so Goodyear Aerospace Arizona Division. This library had been around since the 40s, right? And they were decommissioning the books and giving them away to anybody that wanted them. But I have a book here that was originally published in 1950 called Shortwave Wireless Communications, including Ultra Shortwaves, by an A.W. Ladner and C.R. Stoner. Let me see if I can turn this on real quick. Hold on. Streaming, camera. All right. Pull this up for a second here. You guys should be able to see me. Anyways, this is the book right here, right? Can't really hardly see anything. There's its name. But this book is like, I don't know how to describe it, except it's like a hard fabric bound. And then here's the library information, if you guys remember the old library cards and stuff, right? But what I want to show you guys is, this book is like, it's just all short, you guys can't read that. No. Shortwave wireless signal type stuff. And that's this one. This one's fun. It's got all the references to things as well. But if you guys don't know, that's like my background. I did shortwave radio, I did ham radio and stuff, all that stuff in college. And I did, this thing's dusty. And I did a lot of communications with radio. I built radios and that kind of stuff. And then this other one, I don't think I even have all of them here. This one is logarithmic amplification, right? And this book is from, hold on. This book, oh, this one's 1986. So this one's not as old as the other ones, but it still has quite a fair amount of math and logarithms in it. I mean, obviously logarithmic growth and stuff is interesting. So this is logarithmic amplification. That's not one of the ones that I find super interesting. This one's network synthesis, but this is a very thick book, and it's one of these ones, again, it's got, I don't know how to describe this. If you've never seen one of these books, it's like a hard it's almost like, has anybody here ever painted on or seen somebody doing fiberglass? That's almost what this is. It's like but it's a fabric, but it's not quite like a poly. It doesn't have the stuff on the coating of it. This is called Network Synthesis, and this book is from 1958. So this is a 1958 book. And then this is a very heavy, big book. Got a fair amount of algorithms and other stuff in it. So, I don't know. I just find this stuff interesting. And then I have one, I think the oldest book I've got from them, and I don't know why it's not sitting with the other ones, but the oldest book I have from them, again, that was from a library that we were decommissioning at Lockheed Martin when we were closing it all down. The oldest book I took, they were giving them all away, was de-icing of plane wings, and I think it's from the 30s. And it just dealt with buildup, because they understood that there's this buildup of ice on plane wings as they're moving, and it was all about like de-icing plane wings. So it's kind of an interesting little topic or whatever. All right, we are back to co-working. So no more me on stream because I'm doing other stuff, but I just I thought that you guys might find those books interesting. I keep all my books. I keep all the books I can get my hands on. I actually have a really funny book that like, even talking about the book will probably offend some people. Well, everybody gets offended nowadays in general, but like, people love raging on stuff, right, that doesn't have any business like occupying your time. But there's a book, I have this book from the Peoria Unified School District. They were getting rid of it. They were getting rid of a bunch of books from their library when I first started there. This would have been in like 2004 when I first got out of the Army. And they had a book called Body Shaping for Women by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, if you guys know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, he was a very popular bodybuilder. Then he was a very popular actor. And then he was a less popular governor of California, but he excelled in like 3 different areas. Anyways, he was not governor of California yet when I got a hold of that book. And I remember thinking, oh, he's running. Like, he's running for governor. This would be an interesting thing to just keep this book for posterity. But I'm just going to tell you, this book, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger teaching women how to work out or whatever, you know? This big bodybuilder teaching women how to work out. and it has some of the fun. And I think the book's actually from the late '70s. It's got some of the funniest things I've ever seen written down in it. And if I were to quote them on here, I'd probably get like kicked off of Twitch. But let me just suffice it to say, most of it's like, you need to make sure you look good for a man. You need to make sure that your body is toned and shaped in a way that pleases, you know. And it's I'm just telling you, it's like, to me, I found it hilarious. But I mean, other people, again, people that are serially offended in life, and there's a whole bunch of them on both sides of politics. People love getting. Oh yeah, I love showing this book to people, because the wife, even when she first saw it, she's like, "Why do you have this book? Why is this from the Peoria High School?" And I was like, well, they were getting rid of it. They were like decommissioning a bunch of books they didn't have space for. Same thing that they did while they were closing down the library at Lockheed. So I just said, hey, you know, can we take any of these? And they were like, yeah, we're gonna. I think they were gonna take them to like one of those places where they sell them by the pallet or something, you know. But yeah, and then he got elected governor, yeah, of one of those progressive, yeah, and he was married to. A lot of people don't know this or didn't know this. He was married to one of the Kennedys. His wife was Shriver. She was one of the Kennedys, though. When you look back at like, so anyways, yeah. So he was married into political stuff as well, on top of being, you know, the governor and all that stuff later. But yeah. Anyway, so I have this book from him that is like just absolutely, you couldn't even open it around some people without them going, "What says what?" But it's hilarious. It's this old Arnold. It's called Arnold's Body Shaping for Women. And it's a really funny book, and I have it in my collection because I just like keeping books. I don't like throwing books away, so I have pretty good collection. Some bookshelves built around here. In fact, I can look up and see my old Linux books that I have from when I started Linux a long time ago. Yeah. Old Perl books. I can see them in my closet because my wife put them up in my closet where I could see them. So yeah. Anyways, but I will definitely start this. I need to finish this Will White series I've been reading. If you guys don't know, I really like Will White. I think he's a good author. I don't know anything else about him, but I like his books. And I really like. So I've been reading. I'm on Unsold still of this series, but I really like a series that he's never gonna write on again. God, he made such a fun series that was so good, and the read was so good. And then he said, "Oh, I'm never gonna make any more," and we were so mad. The Traveler's Gate trilogy. These guys, it's a completed book series, but I loved it. And there's some other things people did. So there's obviously the trilogy, and then there's some like chronicles that are short stories that other people wrote, I think, or you know whatever. But I never read this one, but I loved this series. This was a really good one by Will White. So when I was talking about him a while back, somebody recommended me to read his Unsold series, so that's what I'm reading, or Cradle. So that's what I've been doing. And it's actually funny. Cradle references this world that they're in, and it's a really funny concept. But I'm only back on this one still. I have the first three. I bought them, and then I thought if I like them, I'll just order the next like four or all the rest of them from. Just buy them off of Amazon. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 more. And then how long has Waybound been out? Does it have the date for this book? Does it say when this was written? All right, so this was only a few years back. 2023. So okay. Anyways, I like Will White's stuff. I think he's a good author. But I'll check out this Ursula, so I can see how that's going. Colcus, you're on the second book in the Spall trilogy by William Gibson. I've never heard of William Gibson. Let's see. William Gibson. Okay. What kind of book is this? Give him an honorary degree. Okay, that's always good. Oh man, yeah. If you like his stuff, you probably really would like. How old is this one? You're on Sprawl. Okay. Heavy on AI. So, one of the ones that I really like was Neil Stevenson writes a fantastic book, and Snow Crash is one of my favorites. Published in '92, man. And if you think about how, like, the first time I ever got on the internet was 1993, and the first time I know of most other people getting on the internet in their home was in like '95. And if you look at what this guy was writing in here back before, he coined a whole bunch of terms that people still use in this book, in this particular book, with the funniest named hero I've ever seen or protagonist in a book. The character in this book that's the main character is named Hiro, Hiro, protagonist. And I'm like, you must be really arrogant. You must know you're going to have a bestseller to do that shit. But he already had some other books that were pretty popular, but Snow Crash was good. Other ones people like from him are, Cryptonomicon, I think. I love Snow Crash, though. He actually, he didn't, I wouldn't say he designed the idea, but he kind of also displayed the idea for like what a QR code is in that. Because the I can't tell you anything about it, but if you're gonna read Snow Crash, it's a fantastic cyberpunk future book, and I'm pretty sure it's all standalone because there's nothing else really in it. What's the other book he wrote that everybody loved? Cryptonomicon, I believe. Crypto something. Snow Crash. What other books did he have? Yeah, Snow Crash was great. And then, when did he release that? Yeah, 92. But his other books are Cryptonomicon. Yeah, that's the one that everybody goes for. I never read any of his other stuff. I just enjoyed Snow Crash and never went back. But pretty good stuff. I'll keep that one open because I'm going to check that one out later. Move that off to the side. All right. We'll leave that spinning over there. Looking at stuff now in thrift books. Yeah. I'll just tell you, I can highly recommend Colchis. I can highly recommend Snow Crash. As there's just stuff that's going on in that book that's like well ahead of its time of even what was technologically capable. But he kind of predicted a lot of it. It's wild. Like when he talks about like them being in like, because they're kind of in the real world at part of it, and part of it's in the cyber world. But the things he's describing in the cyber world really kind of happened. And not, I mean, not something like only a few years in the future that he could have guessed. I'm talking like now. So anyways, it's yeah, I can't tell you anything else about it except I can tell you Snow Crash is fantastic. It's a really good book. And it's definitely all future cyberpunk. It's all like California's all broken up and there's different factions and different stuff going on. Yep. Good stuff. Neuromancer? I probably would. Colchis, you know what's like the best short read that I always tell people? If you guys are big fans of like if you like, let's call it like cyberpunk, but also like hacker type. And when I say that, let's say like not hacker for hacker's sake, but like actual like. Anyways, there's one that's really good out there called Little Brother. It's, you can go find the PDF online for it. You don't even have to buy the book. I don't even think there's a published book for it. But Little Brother was really good. It's about a kid kind of dealing with stuff happening in the world by going into, leaning into technology. It's pretty well done. But I mean, there's probably some undertones that I didn't really like. I don't like get into political undertones for any of that stuff, but I try to stay out of that stuff and just do the engineering side of things. But there's some really good like things that happened in that book that were really fun. Yeah. I think it's by Doctorow. Yeah, it's called Little Brother. I remember I told one of the guys, one of the security guys that I know to read it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I never heard of that." And then he loved it, and he's like, "Oh yeah." So he's always talking about some of his other books. I've never bothered reading any of his other stuff, but I know that one was good. Yeah, Colchis, will you drop that other name, Neuromancer? Will you drop that in like the reading? Like, will you put that on Discord somewhere? Just so I remember it. I guess I can put it in there too. But I'm just saying, like, if you drop it in there, it'll remind me. Because it tends to be I'm doing a lot of stuff, right? I'm moving around and going through stuff. All right. What else is going on over here? Let's check on Ranger. How's Ranger doing? Ranger has not moved. We're gonna update here soon. We're gonna be working in the next few nights when I'm on. We're gonna be building out the unit 6 for the security engineering, and we're going to be fixing the Bastion process because I'm gonna make the Bastion process a little more lean. I'm gonna make it a little more efficient. And I'll show you guys what I baked up, and then I'll see if anybody's got a better idea, because I'm pretty sure people are going to have better ideas of how to do what I'm going to do. And then what that will do, if we get that process a little more streamlined, I think what we'll do is we'll be able to run more labs on less servers. So like instead of just having Rocky 19 through Hammer 25, we could have like Rocky 1 through 5 and Hammer 1 through 5 much more efficient, right? And never run out of resources for people. And then we would have that would yield us back 34 machines to go, and they're virtual machines, so I can make more of them. But I'm just saying, in the basic current capacity, that would yield us back 34 machines to go do other stuff on, if we really wanted to. And I think that would be a good, yeah, because I don't think we're ever using that many. Maybe we'll leave them at 10 and 10, but that would still leave, even if we did 10 and 10, we would yield back 24 machines to ourselves that we would be able to do whatever we wanted to with, without sacrificing anybody's ability to get in and use stuff. So I think that'll be a good goal. I think that'll be a good little thing to make the lab login a better process for everybody. So yeah, I think there's some good stuff we can do under there. Yeah, Colchis. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen more than 10 people on, period, across all of them. So even if we have a way to make this better and more persistent, I think we could very much drop the capacity of it. Plus, right now, there's no way to deconflict. If two people just happen to pick Rocky 19, they would be in the same server, which actually happened the other day. But with what I'm going to be doing, the system's going to check, and it's only going to publish. And nobody's going to see. You're basically just going to pick, I'm doing sysadmin labs or security engineering labs, and you'll just get dropped into one of the open nodes. You won't even know which one it is. The system will have it all set up for you already. And then we'll have a condition there where the way I want to do it is every 2 minutes. Actually, maybe we'll do it. We can do it as low as every 1 minute. It'll be rewritten. And what'll happen is you would have to log in within a minute of somebody else to be able to maybe use the same one as them. So it probably shouldn't be that common. So, oh, you guys are in ads. Okay, all right. We'll wait on people for ads. But yeah, this is kind of the plan. We're gonna update everything, make everything work a little better. Yeah, we'll wait for those guys to get back from ads. think you guys should be back from ads now. Yeah, we're just hanging out. I'm working on the I'm working on a different screen here, but mostly we're just labbing it up today and sitting around. And I said labbing it up, whatever. I said lab, LAB. Yeah, we're just doing some lab stuff. Oh man, anonymous gifter gave Colkiss a tier 1 sub. Colkiss, if you refresh your page, you shouldn't have to see ads ever again in the channel. I actually think it's still super funny that half of the time it'll say like Colkiss kind of, and then half of the times it'll say cold kiss, and I'm like, oh well, oh well. My closed captioning has no idea what's going on, but neither do any of us. So, yeah. Yeah, Anon's always in here helping people out, and we appreciate Anon. No, I appreciate that, though. It keeps you guys from having to see ads, and it keeps people motivated, so that's always super useful. Colkus, were you around when they were talking about Just the other day? Somebody was in here. Guys, I apologize. I can never remember who tells me anything, but Just looked like a pretty cool little tool. I don't know if you played with this. I was wondering if you had seen this. One of the guys mentioned it to me. I don't think it was Hayes. It might have been Linux developer, but oh, you were here for that? Okay, yeah. So, anyways, I don't know if you got to play with it at all, but I was looking at it. It looks interesting. I haven't built it into anything or played with it to get in there yet, really. But yeah, I think it looks interesting. We could probably even yeah. There's much possibilities here. Much possibilities. Oh, also, one other thing, too. I need to mention this. In my process update that I'm going to do right here, which is making this jailed connection come back to the Rocky servers better, allowing us to shorten these down. The other thing about it, what is that? Is the other thing... it's super funny that this thing like keeps switching between the two, but anyways, it doesn't matter. Where I'm going with that is when I make this process better, one of the things that my cleanup script that's going to be running, it's going to be playbook, is going to be doing is it's also going to be rebooting these. So any node that comes up and is available is always going to be a clean system. Right now, if people don't purposely reset their systems, basically I leave the labs open for as long as people need them. But if somebody's been, I'm going to probably have it be if somebody's been in the lab for more than maybe 4 hours, and I don't know what the conditions will be. We'll have to brainstorm some conditions of what it is, and then we'll do the checks, and then we'll reboot the system. That's what it is if they have logged in, but then they've now disconnected, we're going to go ahead and restart it. Yeah. Could do an alias for exit to reboot. Yeah, that's true too. But some people also just abandon them after a while too. So maybe we'll put a 1-day limit on login just for that, and then after somebody's abandoned the server for so long, meaning they don't go back to it. Oh, we'll have to figure it out. We'll have to figure out how we want to do that. Yeah. There's probably some considerations there. We also could have, I thought about having a way for people to move data out if they wanted to, because currently right now I really don't give you much of a way to move data out. Although I guess you could SCP data out if you wanted to. I'm okay with that. But I do have stuff to keep adding in here, and I want to make some of this stuff more, more valuable to you guys so that you can actually do some of the labs and stuff like that. Yeah, cool, because that's not a bad idea. Yeah, something like that. Exit reboot. Some people, though, again, they'll just abandon it and just leave it there. So maybe we'll make like a one day 24 hours or something as the max for a lab or something. And if that becomes problematic, we could use less. But because I would think nobody would need more than 4 hours in a lab. But I'm okay with it taking longer. So I'm okay with a lab taking like 24 hours. It's just like maybe if somebody has to walk away and come back to it, they can just, that kind of stuff. But I could also cut those connections off at the Bastion host, so I could have something watching things go longer than 24 hours, I guess. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I feel like for me, if I'm doing a lab and I have to walk away for more than like an hour, I might as well just redo the first part again anyways, you know? Like if I was doing like if I was learning Luster or something, it's my first time ever using the tool Luster, and I did the first hour and then I had to walk away or something, I would probably have to do that first hour again, guys. Like if we're being honest, like I'm not gonna be like, oh, I remember that first hour perfectly with all this stuff that I never finished. Let's just go ahead and close this lab up, guys. I don't think that would happen for me. Oh shoot, we might have to hop on a huddle for a little bit here. Um, yeah, guys, we're at about 2.5 hours anyway, so that's a pretty good little working session. Yeah, you got to get a refresher. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's something I've never touched before. Let me hold on. Let me message real quick. I gotta go message somebody. Let's see if I can give him 10 minutes and I'll get off of here. But yeah. So guys, mainly I pop on here during the day for just some kind of co-working sessions while I'm doing other stuff, and tell you guys about the fact that you can come and hang out with us and do Linux and hopefully learn some things around these systems. These are the things that we're trying to learn right here. Linux administration. These are the things that we're trying to learn in the security course. And when I say trying to learn, I mean good enough to be able to say, I can put this on a resume. And if somebody says, okay, you said here that you've integrated Linux with enterprise identity and access management frameworks. What is that? What have you done? And you say, well, I've connected SSD to OpenLDAP. I've studied how to connect to an Active Directory system. Maybe I've never done that. Maybe you don't tell them this, but you've never done it in an enterprise, but you've worked with those tools to allow our systems to have trust to some kind of identity and access management framework. And at the end of the day, what that does is that allows me as a Linux administrator or a Linux engineer to not be in the business of identity and access management. I'm in the business of giving the identity and access management team the ability to give users access to our servers, and then our servers just trust the identity and access management solution of like Active Directory that our company already has solved or chosen. And to me, that's a pretty good little kind of way of putting it, kind of way to talk through it or whatever. Maybe updating Linux to resolve security vulnerabilities and reporting out to security teams. I know how to build repos, so if anybody asks you about that, I know how to build local repos so that we control all the software packages. I know how to point to those repos, and then I know how to patch from those repos in an enterprise environment or whatever. Do they like hearing in interviews that we have home labs if they don't have office experience? Yeah, Quartz. I mean, for me, like if I'm sitting there talking to somebody and I'm asking them questions, if I say something like, "Hey, you have on your or on your resume here that you've integrated Linux to a network in a secure fashion. Could you tell me a little bit about that?" And you say, "Yeah. So I've put a Linux server on and I've followed the hardening of a STIG to ensure that I'm only sharing out the ports that I should, and I've done this and this and this." And I say, "Okay, that's interesting." And you're like, "Yeah," and then I went and put it into a report so that the security team would know about it. To me, at that point, I literally don't care if you did it in an enterprise or in a home lab. For me, because I'm just the technical guy, I care that you could talk to what you were talking about. Like you can talk to it, you can tell me what you mean by you integrated Linux to a network in a secure fashion. You understood that your Linux system has these open ports. Your Linux system can turn on a local firewall, and it can expose certain ports, and then those ports can be examined at any time, and then you hardened it down to a certain standard, which could have been a regulation or an internal company standard or whatever. That can come from anywhere. So yeah, I don't like, for me, excuse me, if I did this and you told me all that, and then I wouldn't say, "And did you do that in an enterprise or in a home lab?" I wouldn't ask that. That wouldn't be me. Some other, like a manager might ask you that. Like, how many servers did you do that across? Well, like if somebody asked you that and you'd done our labs, I would tell them all 30. I don't give a shit. Tell them you did it in a lab environment with a professional Linux users group. I don't care. Because you did, right? You learned how to integrate your Linux to a network. If anybody asks you how big was the network, you tell them there's 60 servers out there. You were only working on one of them, but they don't need to know that, right? So, anyways, my point is also I tell people don't lie, but also the truth is you were working in an enterprise environment because my ProLUG lab is the same type of thing I do in enterprise environments all over the place. I mean, I'm a little more lax on security, but with you guys building security stuff, you've done real type security. So yeah, anyways, I mean, it wouldn't really come up for me on the technical side whether you've done it in a home lab or if you've done it in an actual enterprise. I wouldn't care. Some managers, some engineers are going to care, but I'm not one of them. Like I care that you understand these concepts and that you can implement this stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. All right, let's go check Ranger one more time, and then we'll probably get out of here because I got to hop on the huddle here in a few. So I will. I got to go help one of the guys with some Stig stuff actually. So let's go find somebody to raid on the Twitch side of things. On the YouTube side of things, we don't really have anything for raiding, so I will just see you guys later. But the Twitch side of things, let's go raid somebody. I know who we're gonna raid. We're gonna go raid over to. Who's our favorite person to raid during the day? Let's see. Our normal guys are not. We'll go raid Rossberger. Rossberger's doing some stuff, so we'll go head over there. I appreciate you guys coming by, and I will see some of you guys later on tonight when we're actually doing some work in the labs, not just co-working and doing that kind of stuff. All right. So I will see you guys later. Take care.